Ta-da! We're here. Hello. Let's see. Yep. Looks like it's all working. That's good. That's good news. Oh, it's Mark. Mark is watching. Hey, Mark. You're the only one, so we can just chat. Oh no, there's Sujal. Hello. That was good timing. It has been a while. How are you doing? What's happening? You know, if I type in the chat, that's maybe better because it's a bit quicker. There's the delay between me speaking and your response is probably not great. So. Hi Surash, nice to have you with us. I'm in a bit of a funny mood today. Do you know, it's been a bit of a weird week. January is, I guess, a bit of a weird month anyway. So, coming to the end of it, and one of the things that I have to do is sort out taxes. And it's complex. I'm in Spain, but I'm still sorting out taxes in the UK because of the way that taxes in the UK work. Like, this is going back for 2022 and 2023, so it's just like, what? So I've had that to do this week, and that's been a pain and complex. I spent a lot of time on the phone with HMRC, which is the tax office in the UK. That hasn't been fun, and yeah, I don't know, just not really feeling 100%. Hey Ryan. It's a bit, I don't know, I've struggled this week. That's basically what it comes down to. I think I haven't been as productive as I would like to have been this week, and that's largely down to being distracted on things that need to happen. Hey Adrian. Yeah, tax is probably the same pretty much everywhere. January's usually about the time, isn't it, that everybody starts worrying about it. So anyway, yeah, so last week we had I would say it was a successful stream. Like, we had quite a few people on, and we were talking about native PHP mostly, and that was good. I really enjoyed it, and it was nice to go through the stuff that I've done. But what I'd like to do is actually do some stuff on it together today. So maybe we'll get to some of that. There's a few other things I want to go through first, because last week was really focused purely on native PHP, and yeah, that's not usually what I do here. So, yes, Ryan, January blues. I think it is that. It's kind of like the realization that I've just spent 5 weeks getting over, well, basically a cold. I mean, it was probably COVID or the flu or something over Christmas time, and that really kind of knocked me and my wife about. It wasn't really that fun. So, but I still don't feel like 100% off the back of that. So I think all of these things combined, you know, having to shell out taxes and everything on top of it doesn't help. And then I think the other big thing for me is still, like, I've got so many different little projects on the go, and prioritizing them is hard. Like, knowing which thing to focus in on and do first is quite tricky, because everything's a bit of a risk. Everything's a bit of, maybe this will pull off and that will, you know, do something productive, and I just don't know. And you know, sort of in the back of my head, well, not even really in the back of my head, but very in the face of what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, is that there's still loads of interest around native PHP. And even just, as I say, it's like a successful stream last week, because when I sort of went out to the community, the people who joined on stream, thank you very much, and said, you know, will you support financially this project? And the answer has been yes, to a certain degree. You know, I've had a few sponsors come through, which is great. We've got them set up so that they can do the extra bits that I'm giving them, and you know, that's increased my sponsorships a little bit, which is nice. But it's still, you know, it's not enough. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. I said I wasn't going to talk about it. But the point is, there was a certain amount of success, and that's like a good thing. But the flip side is, it's, you know, still on top of everything. The feeling is, you know, this is still hard. Even there's a interest there and excitement about the project. It's not an obvious thing for me to say, oh, okay, I can just throw 100% of my time into this. So as much as that's what I would like to do, because this is a really cool project. There is some other good news that's come out of it, which I actually can't share with everybody, so I'm teasing you now. But yeah, I'm hoping that in the next couple of months I'm going to be working, I'd say, yeah, loosely a couple of months, I don't really know. It might be sooner than that. I'm already starting to work with the Tauri team quite closely. So I've got some contacts there, and we're working on, you know, spending more time together, collaborating on how to make this work, because they've got some cool ideas that they want to explore. And it turns out that native PHP in Tauri is actually not the only kind of project like that. So they've got some opportunities that they want to explore, which will be very cool to work on with them, because they're very smart people and they know how to use Rust really well, which will help me. And I think it will help the project from a technical point of view, and you know, maybe from a financial point of view as well. So, but I'm already giving away too much. Let's not talk about that anymore. There's some good things that are coming, you know. So I'm like trying to like keep myself out of that sort of depressive state of mind of like, nothing's working, I don't know what to do or whatever. But yeah, the reality is that right now it means that I have a lot of other things that I need to work on, and I don't really know what I should be working on. So we're going to take this time, we're going to do some native PHP, because that's what we said we were here for. Adrian, I worked 220 hours, I guess, that in January. Wow, that's intense. Yeah, no, I don't think I could have done that in this January. I might work my way up to that at some point in the year, but poof, man, that's a lot of work. Well, I hope you're getting rewarded for that, and you're getting some time off as well, because that's intense. Yeah, that's the other positive thing. Like, looking forward to, in a few weeks' time, I'm going to be in Japan. Yay! But that is a proper break, hopefully, for a couple of weeks. So that'll be nice. Hopefully it'll be a recharge and a reset, and I'll come back in March and be, you know, all amped up for the next things. Yes, work is exhausting. Funny that. It's like hard work is hard work. Who knew? Yeah, I need to have something to say about Japan, Mark. We need to talk about that, actually. The other thing is, just before that, I'm going to be in London for a few days. So, if anybody's around London, I know you are, Mark. Potentially, at least in February. Yeah, from like the middle of February. Want to catch up? Let's go for a drink or something. Let's do something. That'd be nice. I've got about 10 days, so that will be fun. What else? Adrian's in Amsterdam. Is that for Laracon EU by any chance? I wish I was going to that this year, but couldn't justify it, unfortunately, at this point in time. Yeah, Laracon EU. Well, have fun. I think that's going to be a really good one. I've heard some sneaky little treats, and I'm gutted to not be there. It's going to be cool. So, and Taylor's going, and I heard that Jack McDade is going to be there. So there's going to be like a complement of Laravel's Totamic people, and then you've got speakers like Matt Stauffer and who else was it? Eric Rees. Oh, so it's just going to be a really good conference. So I'm quite good, but yeah, maybe next time. Okay, what else? What have you all been up to? Anyone want to share anything that they've been enjoying doing or not enjoying doing, like taxes, blah blah blah? It'd be good to hear about what's going on for you and what you're looking forward to over the next few weeks. I've just talked about me, and that's, that's okay, I guess. Maybe that's what you come for, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's better if we share rather than it just be me. One other cool thing that I want to share, because I only just found out about it about an hour ago. I wrote a post for Indie Hackers last week, I think. I can't even remember. The days are all blurring into one. And they've put it on the front page at the top in the middle, and it's like, I mean, I don't know what that means anymore. Like, is it Indie Hacker super popular? I don't know. It's not bringing any traffic to anything that I care about, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. But it's cool. So yeah, there's that. That's not that great, really, is it? Anyway, what else? What does everybody think about the Laravel 11 updates? I'm hearing some very, well, in fact, I almost had a fight with somebody about it on Mastodon the other day. I blocked them because they were being very unreasonable very, very quickly. And yeah, there's some difference in opinions, but I think it's really cool. I think the streamlined, I think the one thing that people are focusing on is like the streamlined default folder structure and files, and go, oh no, where are my files going? Grumble. Well, the first thing to note is like Taylor talked about it at Laracon US last year. He showed it and kind of gave his reasoning behind it, and I think that reasoning still stands, and it's really solid. Which, like, if there's less files in there, there's less for you to get distracted by when you're just starting with Laravel, right? So if you've never used Laravel before, that starting point is really nice and clear. So I think that's a good thing, because hopefully there's going to be a lot of people coming into Laravel over the, especially this year, but as the time goes on, it would be nice to have more and more. And I think what that will do is actually it will create a lower barrier to entry just by making it a little bit simpler to understand what you're presented with. I think the second point is that if you've already got an app that's built in Laravel, a previous version, and you've got all of those files, it's not going to break anything, and you haven't got to get rid of those files. So there's nobody forcing you to do anything special just to conform with like the new standard way that a brand new Laravel app turns out. So that's a bit odd, you know, if people go, oh, I've got all this to do. I don't think anybody's really saying that I've got all this work to do, but anyway, maybe there's a little bit of that in there somewhere. That's just not true, so you don't need to do that. And the other one is about like something that I don't see anybody really talking about. Maybe one or two people have, but the upgrade path without those files is going to be so much easier. Like if you haven't had to customize a bunch of essentially core files, they're not core to the framework, but they're used by the framework and they're core to your application. But if you're having to customize them, every time a new version comes out with new features that relies upon those files being in the right shape, if you've got your version of them, you've got to manually upgrade them, right? Like let's say a new config key gets added to the app config file. If you want that to work in the non-default way, you've got to go and edit your app config file manually, or use something like Laravel Shift, which would hopefully take care of it for you. That's where the work is. Whereas if you don't have those files, then you haven't got to do that work. So I'm kind of all for it. I think if it means that I'm going to streamline future work, I'm going to make upgrading easier and stuff like that, let's do it, man. Let's not wait. Let's not kick up a fuss about it. So that's my 2 pence on it anyway. I'd love to see your thoughts. The chat's died. Say hello to each other. I don't know, you know, mingle. It's fine. You don't have to do what I say. Right, what else have we got? I don't know. There hasn't been too much more that I think is worth touching on. So I'm going to switch to sharing my screen. 1 second. Who's this? Oh. Thought Eminem had reshared one of my things, but it's not. It's just of course it's not. That's a joke. Cool. Let's get rid of that. Let's do. Where are we? Right. This look right? This is my article. Look, it's right in the middle. I'll refresh and make sure it's still there. I'm going to do this all day. I'm going to keep this. That's cool, huh? Yeah. Okay. Let's get rid of that as well. This is the craziness that I've got going on. Too many things. What do? I think I need to quit Chrome. I do actually need to quit this time. Let's see, what else have we got? Nothing interesting. Okay, I'm going to quit this as well. Ooh, what was that? Where did it go? It's gone. Oh dear. Well, we'll come on to that in a minute. I'm going to quit all of this. And we'll bring Chrome back so that I've got... Maybe it's going to bring all those windows back though, that's kind of annoying. So I just haven't quit Chrome in a while and it needs to update and all sorts of things. I think just giving it a heave-ho is a good thing to do. I'm just going to have to close a bunch of windows. Yeah. Let's just go. Let's go. I don't care about these anymore. I don't care. If it was important, I would have gone back to it already. So, right. Oh yeah. I always have too much open, Mark. That's crazy. I don't know why I do it to myself. Okay, so what are we doing? Hi Anton, thanks for the question. Welcome. I don't know. I think this is maybe one of the reasons, like I just feel lighter already now after doing that. That might have been one of the reasons why I've been feeling bad this week. It's nuts. I think we need like a tool. This is a silly idea. It's not going to be valid. But like a tool that says you can only keep Chrome tabs or browser tabs open for X long time. You know, have a countdown basically. It's like if the tab is unused for more than X minutes, it just automatically closes. Maybe there are some things that already do that. I don't know. But Chrome seems to put everything in this like sleepy mode. I don't know if you've seen that. I'm not going to be able to demonstrate it now, unfortunately, because it's just going to be like fresh tabs and everything. So there you go. But it kind of makes the icon look like something else, and then shuts it down effectively, stops it from taking up memory and things. But that's not enough. Just get rid of it. Just get rid of it altogether. Then it's gone, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, okay. So what are we doing? I started and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. This is too much for my head to cope with. Merging together some of the Laravel native PHP stuff that we've got going on, because there's been some changes from what's out there now, public, and what I would like to be able to do, and I may be doing this too preemptively, honestly, because I just don't think, but the point is that in order to make the native PHP main library work with Tauri without the web server, we've got to kind of change how it operates against both of the drivers. So for Electron at the moment, we're going to keep it using web servers, and that's already implemented. And then for Tauri, it's going to be different. So we need to have a way to kind of split the logic and say, for Electron, you do it this way, for Tauri, you do it that way. And I kind of see them as clients, sort of. This is the path that I went down before. It's like, maybe even I called them something else and the naming is wrong, but it's like a HTTP client, right? Especially the Electron one right now. It is a HTTP client. But the Tauri one isn't going to be strictly a HTTP client. It might end up looking a little bit like one, but it isn't really one. So I don't know if client is the right word, but that doesn't matter. We can figure that out. What am I talking about? This is all a bit abstract at the moment, isn't it? Well, I'll try and show you an example of where this is at. I shouldn't even do it in this. This is just complicated. Unnecessarily complicated, I feel, for what I'm trying to achieve. Let's just do it in here. No, it's not there. It was this one. I think this is the one that we're dealing with. No, it's not even this one. It's somewhere else. Where is this one? Losing my mind. It's not even there. It's here. Yeah, So this is the native PHP Laravel is the package that you install in your Laravel application that will allow you to build the native one, and then you choose the driver and it will install all the right stuff. So there you would choose a driver and then it will do all of the things. It will install the right packages and it will configure it in all the right way and get it all in the right shape. So mostly all of that stuff is set up, but then somewhere in here we've got, there we go. So this is what I'm working on in this kaleidoscope thing. It's the same, but just obviously all merged together, and I would need to sort this out. But for some reason I can't. I like this tool, it's good, but when it gets complicated like this, where you've got all these things going on, I just cannot see what am I dealing with? What's the state this should be in? I don't know. And honestly, I can't remember where I was with it because it was a few days ago that I picked this up. So I think I might need to just leap out of this stage and go back into here, and we'll try and explain what's going on. So this service provider is what sets up the whole thing, okay? That's not very explanatory, but it registers this package, it works out which other packages should be installed, it works out the commands that we make available, and sets up the relevant routes and things for native PHP functionality that we need. It sets up the database, it rewrites a bunch of paths, and basically just kind of takes over the application and makes it ready for the context of being bundled into a native application. And because this changed quite a bit between when I first started looking at doing this and now, I've got to merge this stuff together. So, and I stashed a bunch of my work because I can't remember why, and it's come from a stash rather than from a merge, which is a little bit odd, but it's basically the same, because stashing is just kind of a very loose branch. Now I'm looking for those session things. Why did we change those? I don't know. Maybe we don't need to. They've disappeared basically from this, and some of the naming has changed as well. So I am a bit confused because that doesn't all make that much sense. Why is that native PHP when up here it's native-PHP? I don't know. It's inconsistent, isn't it? Is that somewhere in config? We've got two files. This is okay, so actually it should be without the hyphen, right? This is some dumb version that I've got, and now this is what the latest version of this file looks like. So it's actually in much better shape. That's what I want that to be. And then there's this internal one, which is, yeah, okay, this is slightly better. So this file just needs to disappear because this one isn't really right, but I probably added this driver thing to it myself. Gotta love, like, forgetting what you're doing. Hi, Essa. I can. You don't need to leave the stream open for a view count for me. Thanks. Thanks for stopping by for a second to say hi. It's great. I hope you have a good day and a good weekend. So this piece here, sorry, I'm working through in my head what's going wrong and why this stuff isn't in the right shape. And I want to get this just tidy enough so that I can move forward, and I'll explain where I'm heading. I'm going to get rid of that because I think that's covered up here. It's, yeah, equivalent to that, and it's been moved into that variable, so I'm going to get rid of that. Are you also going to Laracon EU? I'm very jealous if you are. So enjoy whatever you're doing in Amsterdam. Oh yeah, it is Laracon EU. Great. Yes, have fun. That's going to be very good. The thing that I want to do is we configure the app, and yeah, it's kind of, this needs to be its own method, I think, just to be conforming with these other pieces. So I'm going to say this register client, something like that. I probably even did put this somewhere in here already, but I called it configure native driver, but I'm gonna, yeah, let's call it register native driver. That's better. And we'll have that register native driver. And so, yeah, this is unnecessarily complex. Trying to do it in a match. Why am I doing it in a match? I don't know. We just want we want the class to be referenced in this config, basically. So it's not going to be that, it's going to be native PHP internal. And I effectively just want to do a new whatever comes out of that. I think. No, maybe it does need to be this. Sorry, I'm just thinking through, like, it might be easier if it's just a simple string, right? So I'm hitting on this correctly now in my head. What I want to be able to do is say native PHP, or whatever it looks like here, driver equals, and then either Tauri or Electron, okay? And if you don't select one, I don't know what it should be, but you know, maybe it's Electron to start with because that's what it currently is by default, because that's the only one, de facto. So what should we do? Yeah, I think if it's a string like, you know, effectively one of those, then that's nice and easy in some respects. But I think that also suggests maybe that you can switch drivers and that will just work. I don't know. That sort of feels a little bit wonky potentially. Maybe it's not that straightforward. Because I have to familiarize myself with this. Excuse me, come on. This is the thing. So when we're installing the native PHP into the Laravel application, we don't actually install the native PHP Laravel package directly. It's a dependency of the driver specific one that we've installed. Okay, Mark, thanks for joining for a bit. It was good to see you chatting, and yeah, have a good weekend. And I'll see you soon. So this, what's going on? If we're installing like native PHP Tauri, then I guess to a certain extent we should be able to infer which driver is being used at some point. We're not really allowing we don't really want to allow the user to set this in the env. So somebody would never really do this. This would already effectively be done, but we do need something to tell us what the driver is, if we call it driver. I don't know if that's the right word either, but if we go back to, I'm kind of thinking essentially what it is like the actual Tauri environment would tell our Laravel application, hey, you're running in Tauri. So yeah, this is like, that's why I kind of called it environment before. It's a little bit weird. I don't, where is it? It's not going to be there at all. It's going to be in the Tauri plugin. So here, where we set up the env keys that we pass to the PHP executable, the process that's going to render a page, we would say, hey, you're running in the Tauri environment. Is kind of, maybe the thing that makes sense. And we could default that to Electron just because, so we don't have to force the Electron driver and all of those Electron apps that already exist to create this thing. So let's tie that up. The PHP thing is going to be executed with that environment variable set, which means some config somewhere needs to pick up that environment variable and translate it into something useful. So I feel like that should be in this internal, because this is where we have things like native PHP running, the secret, and some other bits and pieces. Okay, so I'm going to say we add it to the top because I think it's the most important one. So I'm going to say which native PHP environment is executing is this application running in. I'm going to keep calling it environment until I think of if another name becomes clearer and we can refactor. But so I'm going to say native PHP environment and we're going to call the default one is going to be electron. Right. So when we've got that in config, and that's coming through, our service provider can then pick that up, right? So we register the specific driver for the environment. So we're saying I'm in this environment, which means I need to use a certain driver. I don't know if driver is the right word. This class is not really the driver. It's like the client. So if we have a look at an example, let's have a look at the window. Does this even have it in here? It should do. Maybe it's coming from, well, yeah, okay. So it's using it in here. It's client. Let's find where the client is. Client gets set somehow from the outside. Maybe that's happening in some facade. Yes. Nope. Maybe it's happening in the window manager. Ah, right, yeah. I don't know where it's getting it from. Something is making the client available to this class as well. Well, it's just window is the window manager. Ah, yeah, okay. So because it's a facade, it's running through the container, and as long as the client is in the container, then when we have type hinted the client on this constructor, it's coming through. So this all will need to change, because that means it's hard coded to whatever that client class is, and that client class is Laravel client, this one. And this is very specific to, I'm running HTTP requests, I'm making gets and posts and deletes even, which is speaking to Electron, right? The Electron web server that's running on the Electron side. And we're just not going to be doing that. We're going to be operating it differently. So I'm going to say this one should be the Electron client. And we need another one for Tauri. And I kind of started to do that here, but I've called them environments, and I think that's wrong, because I think environment is a different concept. I think environment is the context that the application is executing in, not the actual code or class or what, object that's going to communicate back with that environment. So this is just poorly named here. Okay, so I'm going to refactor this away, and we'll get back to something that makes sense. I think environment is the wrong name for this contract as well then. So the little dots here is what's indicating where I should be looking, because these are the changes that I pulled in from my stash. Yeah, fine. So there's not too much really. I'm going to get rid of this file because this is of no use at all. We've already moved that to native PHP internal. Hey, that's weird. Why is it not updating? You've seen it now. I talked about this a few weeks ago. Why is that not refreshing? Have I got something watching something? No. Where's this? Oh gosh, more windows. Okay, I don't know. Wow. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of these things. Doesn't matter. I'll figure that one out later. So let's go back to making some sense. This shouldn't be called driver. Driver is the wrong thing. I'm going to call it client. Register native client. And we're going to pick the environment. Oh my gosh, environment. And we're based on the environment string, which we could use an enum for, but is that really worthwhile? I don't know at this stage, so I'm going to leave it as a string, but I'll make a note about that to do use an enum with this match. So my thinking there is maybe at some point we could end up with this enum value object, basically, which can do a bit more around what the environment is. I don't know if that's that worthwhile. But, so we'll keep it simple. Tauri, Electron, right, and then those are, I've called them environments, but they're not really environments. I'm going to say client, clients, Tauri, and Electron. Okay. So those are the things that I want to have. These. Oh no. Let's put those up there. Right. And we've got some other weird mergey tags in here. I don't think so. No. So we've cleaned that up now. Finally. But it's not going to work because the stuff isn't in the right place. We haven't got any naming collisions, Tauri, Electron. No. Fine. So I just need to change this to client and change it to client. In fact, I think we need also the delete. I'm keeping that, even though we're not going to be doing HTTP in Tauri land, I'm keeping it looking like HTTP, just because that's what this one is doing. I think that feels appropriate. I'm going to ditch my Electron class because it's wrong. I'm going to call this one Electron instead, and it's going to implement the client. So I'm just going to borrow some of the stuff from here. I think that's the only bit that's needed. That means that's kind of minimal changes happening to this one. We just need to rename it. Implements. And we're going to call it Electron. Oh, I did the Electron again. That's fun, isn't it? And this one I'm going to move. It's called client and not clients. That sucks. But anyway, I'm going to do out of environments and into client. Environments. So we can get rid of this one altogether now. And then I'll rename this folder because it being singular is weird. Delete this folder. Yeah. Bye. And I'm going to rename this one to clients. Cool. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of some of these files that we didn't actually need. So clients, contracts, client. And this needs to be client because that's the one that we're talking about. And we've got our Tauri and Electron clients. So that kind of feels like it may, oh, did I leave you open? Let's just reload because, well, it doesn't like that either. Well, you can go away. I'm going to ignore you. You weren't very helpful. How's everybody doing? Let's get rid of this. I'm going to resolve using current version. Cool. Yeah. Notification. What's weird about notification? This one? No. This one. Oh, I started to change it. That's no good. Nothing else has changed. So basically, these need to be updated to work with the client contract, not the client class itself. That's the key bit. So I don't know why I've just done that random one. I just did. So it should be like that, right? Why hasn't that refreshed? Oh, because I'm looking at it. Go away. And I don't need to really change the name of the variable. And I don't know why I've called it push. Maybe it was called push before, but client posts fine. So that's minimal changes, and that gives us an example of the kind of work we're going to have to do across the whole load of the library. Maybe I don't need native in here. This feels register native client with storage path, blah blah blah. Native client, I don't know. It's kind of okay. So that has changed, and that's not necessary. Let's get rid of that one. It's actually ended up being really simple. So all we've done is introduce this ability to kind of decide which one of these classes gets registered into the container when this boots up. So yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. We've added the config for the environment variable, and then we've just shifted the client class from here to here and renamed it. And we've added our Tauri one, which we'll come on to now, which we can start thinking about how that's going to work. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up properly as a commit. As you can see, I've added this Tauri branch. I'm going to do this now. Okay, so we're going to say move the Electron client class and rename. This is what, not why, but why, so we can make space for the new Tauri client class. I should have added that as well. In fact, I should check that. Where does this align with what the client can do? Otherwise we're going to get some errors. So I haven't got the return types. I need these. And that's saying it's a Illuminate HTTP client response. So let's put those in. It's kind of weird in this case. I'm doing it because of what we've set the expectation in the client that already exists. But this isn't necessarily what it's going to be for the Tauri one, and so we'll need to refactor later, but it's fine. Let's go with it. And then we're going to add the environment variable /config. This allows us to decide which client class to load. I'm going to take the Tauri one out for a second. That doesn't exist yet. I'm going to take my little to-do line out as well because I don't really want that in there. We might remove it altogether, and then I'm going to say, right, add the Tauri driver. So we're going to say this one, and this one. Add, yeah, and then I'm going to say whip because this, we haven't even looked at it. This isn't right yet, it's not going to work. So whip add the Tauri client. Okay, so that's cool. Let's publish this. Yeah, let's publish it. So that's going to be live on the Laravel package now. No one can really use it for anything, but it's coming. So let's go back to basics. Let's close all the other tabs to that one, and let's go and have a look at this Tauri thing and see what we're trying to do a little bit. Don't need that one at the moment. Don't need that one at the moment. No chat. Okay, this is all good. What are we doing for time? We're an hour in. We're an hour in, folks, already. And there's a few of you still here. Oh, cool. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you're having fun. Let me know if there's anything that you want to talk about or got any questions on. If not, I'm going to keep yakking on about what I'm doing. Excuse me. So, right. Stepping back for a second. Not too far though, because this is on a wire. We've got, let's have the Electron one as well. This is using the built-in HTTP request, HTTP client that Laravel's got that makes available to us, which is a nice and straightforward HTTP client for actually quite surprisingly some powerful things. Without having to get your hands dirty with curl or Guzzle. I think it uses Guzzle under the hood. Could be wrong. And that makes this nice and straightforward for Electron because we're using a web server. But for Tauri, we're not using a web server. So what do we need to do for Tauri? Well, we need to define the parameters of how the system is going to work. And I started thinking about some of that and started implementing some of that. Now, we've got to think about both sides. So we're just looking at the Laravel side at the moment. How does that send and receive messages into the running Rust process? The Tauri application itself. There are a few ways of doing something like this. We're talking about the high level subject is inter-process communication, which you will see acronymized, is that the right word? Or abbreviated is probably a better word. It's not an abbreviation, but it's an acronym. Acronymized to IPC, right? Inter-process communication. The way that I started exploring that is via a TCP socket, which is actually how HTTP works. It's just lower level. So HTTP sits on top of TCP and it adds all of the typical stuff that we expect, like headers and requests and responses and a few other bits and pieces. And it uses TCP's nature of, I expect to, like I'm sending you a bunch of packets, I expect a bunch of packets in return, I expect an acknowledgement, and I expect you to tell me that you've received everything, and I'm going to double check with you. So TCP has got this like very tight, sort of rigid, have you got everything? Yes, cool, then I know we're all in sync, and that's good. And that's great for HTTP. Certainly for HTTP up until more recent times, where now we've got things like Quick and HTTP3, which are looking at using UDP, which is the other protocol. So TCP is the one, UDP is the other. Hopefully you know some of this already, and I'm not going to go into detail about that because honestly I'd have to do some digging as well because I don't keep up to date with all of that stuff. But UDP is faster because it just goes, here you go, here you go, here you go, and lets the recipient deal with it. Like if things are missing or out of order or whatever, then tough luck, which is great for like streaming video and that kind of thing. It all sounds like it's networking stuff, so this is going over the network interface, and that's true in most cases when we're talking about TCP sockets and things. But one convenient feature of a system is that it's got like the loopback socket, so it doesn't actually go over the network as I understand it. Like it's not even trying to use the same level of the stack, it's just going, oh, I know this address is like special, this means me. So instead of having to go and ping out to the network and kind of find whatever this address is, whether it's a domain name or an IP address, I can just say, I know that this is coming back to me, so I'm going to skip a whole bunch of stuff and I'm going to go, right, I'm just sending this message over here. And it's effectively using, memory to just say, here is the data that I want you to have, here you go. And the other end is going to go, okay, it looks like you're trying to send this to me in a TCP-like way, so I'm going to respond in a TCP-like way. If you think you're sending me this stuff, I'm going to check that what if you sent me, and I'm going to tell you what I think you sent me, and then it's kind of negotiate to work out whether it's sent everything, even though it's not sending stuff. That's how it works in my head. So this feels like an appropriate kind of stack for doing this. Obviously, that's why HTTP and web servers made sense, because this is all abstracted away for us. But we're not running a web server anymore in the Tauri side. So how do we achieve something similar? Well, we have to set up a server and a client in a sort of similar fashion. So on the Tauri side, let's see, do I have that in here anywhere? No, probably not. Not in this file. Do I have it in here? Socket? No. Socket? No. These are just some old versions of Tauri plugin that I was sort of faffing with, but these don't have what I was thinking of setting up. This one's using Rocket, which is what I'm moving away from. So let's go to, not that, let's go, it's going to be a branch, or maybe it's in the plugin. I've got a feeling it's in here. It's not a branch, so maybe it's a stash. No, I haven't got it as a stash either. Maybe it's not in the plugin at all. Maybe it is in something else. Maybe it's straight in the driver. It's not this one. Ah, TCP stream. Goodness me, look, that was a while ago. But this is not, this doesn't look like it's got anything to do with streams in it. That was some nastiness that I just did not need. The amount of Rust code that I've written and deleted is quite wild. I don't think this is the right deal. I think I've got it somewhere in here. Ah, here we go. Okay, this is what I need to adapt back into the plugin. So this is the Tauri driver proper. So this is like this is what's actually going to build the application using Tauri. This is the package that we're going to install from Laravel. So we're going to say composer require native PHP / Tauri, and it's going to install this. And originally I had planned to do all of this in the main Rust file for the app, but that doesn't really make sense, because then if we need to change a bunch of stuff, well, I don't know if it does make sense or not. Actually, it's slightly, I haven't really thought through enough in advance of talking about it to confirm or deny my thinking on it. But it fundamentally comes down to, there's this main app file which I kind of want to touch as little as possible for whatever reasons. So I've moved it to being a plugin, a Tauri plugin, which is what we've been working on before. And now I've got this stuff which was written in the context of it when it was in the main file, and I just need to borrow that, rip it out from this stash version and basically put it into the plugin. But we can have a look at it here and kind of work out what's going on before we do any of that. So the principle is that we are going to set up a kind of a web server, but it's going to be really, really locked down. It's not, this is the thing, it's not really a web server in the truest sense. We're not looking to receive data from the outside world for a start. We're not looking to receive, I mean, from the context of the Tauri application, it is the outside world because it's another process. But it's also not needing to do all of this stuff with the HTTP overhead. Like, in order to send a message into Tauri, into Rust, like let's say we want to open a window. This is like the basic level of stuff that we want to be able to do with the kind of app environment that we're in. We want to open a window. So in but we want to write the code in PHP. So we write the code in PHP, like window open, effectively. There's a window facade, which is going to look at the window manager, which is going to have an open method, right? And that's then doing something. It's going, okay, we're going to use the client, we're going to send a message into, in this case it's Electron. We're going to send a message into Electron to say, open the window, open a window with this configuration. And that message gets sent, the window gets opened, right? Now we've got a window. We need to do the communication layer. We need to establish that communication layer. What are the norms for the way that should work? How do we expect messages to be structured? How do they come in? How do we manage it? And to do that with a TCP socket in Rust, it looks like this. This worked. I was able to set up a socket and I was able to send messages. So I know that this works. We've got to adapt it. But my thinking was we can keep it quite similar to HTTP. We can use the same verbs. We can use JSON, for example, as the message format. And we know that both sides can deal with those things. So it feels like an appropriate way of doing it. There is some trickiness to it though. So when the stream receives a message, we then need to turn that message into action. Tauri's got a way of doing this. It's got this thing called commands. And commands are quite cool because you don't really have to think about how, all of the context of how it works in Tauri. You can just create this function, ask it to do the things you want it to do, and then run it from JavaScript or from within Rust. So you create the function in Rust, and then you call it from JavaScript. The other thing that Tauri does is it's actually got a whole bunch of the standard stuff available within its JavaScript API. So you can actually just write JavaScript to do half of this stuff. The problem is that JavaScript is only executable in the browser view, so in the web view, which means you have to have the web view open in order to use it. You can't just call JavaScript in some process. And it's JavaScript, so we want to move away from that. We want to write PHP to do this stuff. So in order to do that, I can't use the command stuff that Tauri makes available. We have to do it through some other mechanism that we've created. But because it's not using the command stuff that Tauri makes available, which it wraps up in all this nice stuff for us, then we end up with these, as I remember it anyway, issues with lifetimes and borrowing and all of this Rust level stuff that I still don't fully understand. So what that means is it's not always clear whether the message that's come in via the TCP socket is running at the right level to do the thing that I want it to do kind of safely from Rust's perspective, and that's tricky. But what we can do is start, we can try. And I think that this approach is actually okay for what we're trying to do. We just need to get it. We need to get the timing of it right in the context of our plugin, because it's going to be slightly different. Anyway, enough of me talking about it. Let's dive into it. Let's just try and implement this. So the first thing is what's the first thing? The first thing is the spawn. So high level, what is this doing? That is starting a thread in Rust. So we're saying in a separate thread, I want you to start this I will run this function, and this function is start a TCP stream. And that is then just like infinite looping over on one side of the application in its own thread. Like, I'm always listening. I'm listening on this address, this port. That's important. We'll come back to that as well. But that's over there. It's always waiting. And then when something comes in, it's saying here, I mean, we can literally read it. When something comes into the stream, then handle that incoming message. And just at the moment, this always just responds with an OK, which then just means that this can keep on, this thread can just keep spinning no matter what happens. I can't remember if it sends some data back. We've got to think about how it's like request response, because we're going to need that from the PHP side, honestly. But anyway, the important thing there is it's listening on that specific location, you know, the address, the port is the thing that matters. And we need to think about that, because if we've got multiple instances of the same app or even different native PHP apps running, they can't all share the same port. So on the same system, if you're trying to open native PHP app by someone over here and another native PHP app by somebody else over there on your computer, and they both want to use port 9000, which is what this has been set to here, that's going to be a problem. So we will need to make that into some variable thing, which is a bit of a pain, but I've also already done that. So we can swap that out as well. And then the other bit that's missing from here that we haven't really done is when it receives a message, what should it do? That is the really tricky part, because we've got to unpack the message, we've got to deserialize, you know, if we're using JSON, we've got to deserialize it, and then we've got to decide what's the function that we're calling and what's the payload that we're calling. Now, I tried to make this work, as I understand it, using the command functions that Tauri exposes. So the API would be nice and straightforward. But what that means is we've got to then basically write our own wrappers around every single piece of functionality that Tauri exposes. So what do I mean? This is the thing that I don't really want to do, because well, we can look at it here, but we should also look at it in the Electron driver. I don't know if I've got that in here, actually. No, let's have a look at that separately for a second. Is it in the plugin? I don't know. Maybe it is in the plugin. Yeah, because this is where all of the TypeScript stuff is going to be, right? Yeah. So quickly look at this. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but this is what Marcel's had to write to wrap up the all of the native functionality for native PHP, but in Electron. So he's basically built out every single endpoint that then calls into the native Electron JavaScript stuff. So this is the maximize one, and when that request comes in, here's what it does. And to a certain extent, I don't know if that's avoidable, really. Even in the in the Tauri context, I think we're going to have to do something similar. And what I was going to show you on the Tauri side is it's very, very similar. So this is the JavaScript events that they've got that you can run from JavaScript in the web view, which means they're wrapping the underlying, like, here's the native things that you can do with the application exposed to JavaScript. And we need the same, in a way it might be quite nice to just go down this whole list and just go, yeah, we've got this and we've got that and we've got that and we've wrapped them all, so that we've got parity with what's available from Tauri. The other thing is that in some respects it would be nice to have parity with what Electron makes available, because then we've got two drivers that equate to each other. That's tricky to reconcile. But the other thing is, it just means that somewhere we've got to potentially write all of these bits of code. And what I would much prefer, honestly, is to not have to do that. I would, it would be great if we could just say there's some standard way within Tauri to call these things on the Rust side. And I don't think there is, honestly. I think it's all just kind of crazy. So I don't think it's even going to be that obvious just by looking at some of this stuff. I'm looking for, where's the window thing? It's probably buried, or it's somewhere else. Modules? Okay, yeah. So there's like a module, and then within the module there's struts, and then within those there's specific functions, right? So it's going to feel super gross to try and expose those in some sort of standardized way, I think. I think that's just going to be really hard. Or we literally expose the API of the Rust struts to our PHP code, and that's super brittle then, right? Because we're saying if this changes, our code has got to change. The client code, what that means then is we expose that to the developer, and I don't want to do that. We want to make it easy for the developer, because if it changes and we force developers to make changes, that creates a problem. So it's actually quite nice if we have this layer in the middle that says, okay, this is the kind of function call that you make, and that's standard across both Electron and Tauri. So it doesn't matter which one you use, you could swap in theory, and you wouldn't have to necessarily change too much code because mostly the API is the same. And then what's happening under the hood on the Electron side is all of the stuff that we've looked at here in TypeScript. And then similarly in the Rust side, we'd have to have Rust code that does this stuff as well. I don't think there's any way of escaping that. We're just going to have to go through and implement it all and figure it out. And there's going to be problems, and there's going to be stuff that's missing because it's not supported. And we're just going to have to account for all of that and document it all. And yeah, so we could use this as our reference point. We could say this is the thing that sets the bar for what we should be able to do. And in a way, it would probably mirror it almost directly in Rust code. Like we'd have an app.rs and a clipboard.rs and blah, 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 blah files that would expose these kinds of, not endpoints, these aren't routes with handler methods. They are literally going to be functions that we're going to be calling using our, in the world that I'm in at the moment, this kind of socket endpoint is going to receive a message, and the message is going to get unpacked, and it's going to run the code dynamically. And I don't even know if that's even possible. It must be possible, but And I got to the point where we deserialize and that's it. I don't think it actually then goes and does, what is the call function? Is that something built into Rust? Rust call function. I don't know what that means. That's, I don't, where has that come from? This doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, how from that search has it come up with that code in this playground? I don't know. But this is a closure. So that's the closure. We're saying pass the closure into this method, call function method, and then run the closure with a specific value. So the closure expects an unsigned integer of 8 bits, 8 bytes. Function, and we're saying that number 8, so pass 8 into that, and it is 8 less than 5. No, so the result is going to be a bool that's going to be false. And that just feels really, really messy. There's something special about the where. Like, also, we're not passing closures around. These are going to be, we're not making them on the fly. The functions are already going to exist. They're going to be in a specific place. It's going to be in a library file. And it's going to be called one of these, like app.rs. So we're going to go to app and we're going to call this function within app. That's fundamentally what it needs to be. But I don't know if we can do that in Rust. Or I don't know how to do that yet in Rust. So, right. Let's do the first bit. Let's get this stream, socket stream thing into place and see if we can get that up and running. Because we haven't really done anything yet. We've just talked about doing it. So, we're going to close that for now. We can come back to that. And we can get rid of our window manager stuff. So yeah, this is the thing, like this ties up with what we've got on the PHP side. This detail. So I know at one point this worked. Definitely. What am I doing? Right. So in the boot up of the app, we want to start a thread. Now, what spawn is that? It's not obvious here. Maybe it is just standard thread spawn. So I'm going to keep using that. we can do like this. That's fine. So you've got one thread. What is that doing? That's the one that boots up the first window. So we probably actually want to do this one beforehand, just so that we can get it working first. And then, yeah, let's get, I need those bits. The start, the TCP stream function. I don't think I've got that get app path in use. Oh no, I do. Let's leave that. So start the TCP stream. We'll come back to this. We need to make the port number dynamic. And we're going to need to put that in some state somewhere. Yeah, that's fine. We'll figure that out. We'll probably randomize, put it in state, and then pluck it from state whenever we need it. Hopefully. That should be okay. And we're handling the socket. Yes, I know. Handle client. It's not handle client, it's read JSON message from stream. Right, so this is the one that actually does the work and returns the message in an OK. So if it's an OK, we basically get the request, and then, I mean, I actually did quite a lot here already. I'm surprised. This is good. We get the request. We have this. What are we trying to invoke? I don't know, but we'll come back to that. And with what data? How that gets called? Don't know. And then some output from that is going to be the response, and that's what we write back to the socket, which hopefully PHP will be able to pick up and do something with. I think that is how it is working, or did work. Okay. And there's this JSON message struct that I had created. I'm going to put the struct at the top because I don't know why. It feels appropriate to put the, like, a struct is like a type, I guess. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Cannot derive, serialize, cannot derive. This is going to be very interesting. I don't think we're going to have, it's not going to be easy. Yeah, call function doesn't exist. There's definitely some interesting things in here. So let's take these bits that we need. I don't know where serialize came from. import all of these things because that just feels weird. Let's take serialize and deserialize because I think I know we need those. And then standard net TCP listener and TCP stream we can take. I'm gonna rip these into simpler versions because I do like the grouping. And I also already know that I've got these net. That's the bit that I want. Net TCP listener. TCP stream. Okay. And IO? I don't think I need IO. We're not using that anywhere in here, are we? Read. Right. No. That must have been from something else. I don't know why that's in there. But I still think there's going to be stuff missing. Core said standard error. Ah, okay. Yeah, I didn't grab that one for some reason. Error. Let's do that. Standard error. Okay, so we're close, but wow, I don't know what that means. More implied bounds than the corresponding trait method. Does that mean I can't use deserialize? Is that what that's about? Maybe I don't need a lifetime. Closure is expected to take 0 arguments. It's got to be async closures are unstable. Yeah, it's interesting. So if it's it might have been a Tokyo thread that I was using in this version. I can't really remember. I guess, can I get back to that? Is the don't know. This isn't fun, is it? Where am I? So, maybe I need to switch my branch to one of these other things. Do I even need these things? I don't know. This one I don't need anymore. We can move that to trash. I don't know where those have come from. I'm going to stash this stuff. I say align with electron driver. And maybe it's in the main one? Oof, no. That's old. Let's try that one. It's async runtime of Tauri, which we're using spawn. That's interesting. Oh, okay. This actually does need lifetimes. Wow. It's complicated stuff, man. Who knows how to read these Rust messages? I don't. This doesn't like this struct. I don't think it's going to like this either. So maybe this needs to be a string. Maybe it doesn't need the... Wow. It might be okay then without that. Why is it still referencing a str? That's not a str. Maybe then it's not a problem. Some weirdness there. Anyway, the other bit is where it's... Ooh. It's not a str. There is no str. You're very annoying. Serialized. Let's name these things better, yeah? Message. Oops. Is it deserialized font, deserialized font reader stream. I don't know what that is about because I don't have an implementation for JSON message. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm missing an impl. Main, that's what I want to look at. JSON message? Nope. Wow, okay. Is it somewhere in the history of this did I even ever do it? Do I ever commit? Probably not, to be honest. This isn't very fun. Sorry, I am like trying to figure out where I have put this stuff. Maybe it never actually did get to a point where it was working well. And we've got to figure it all out from scratch to a certain extent. So I'm digging into other versions of the original Tauri driver that I built to see where it got to see if I'd got any implementations there that made sense for the stash that we were looking at. So this TCP socket stash, which has got some things but not everything. And it's not super clear. This suggests that it's, well, 9th of May. I don't know if we can find one of these parents. No, not in this. In the history. Can we search for a hash? No, that's gross. That's my... I don't know where that is. I don't even know which one it was. Good if I pay attention. Oh, it was the bottom one. So, yeah. Let's have a look. Wow. No, that's not helpful. This one. April 28th. So it's not that branch. It must be this branch. Yeah. It was just here. So it's this branch, but then there's some version of that file that I don't think I've got anymore. I mean, it's sort of suggesting that if I took this, oh, where's that gone? It's not showing me the preview now for some reason. That's not nice. Show me the preview. So I've searched something and it's filtered it out. I don't know. That's no good. Basically, if I applied this it should sit on top of what I've got here. What is going on with this? Something's funky here. I think Tower is having a moment. I think Tower has got its little knickers in a twist. Sorry, buddy. go. See if we can get you back to normal. That is strange. Why has it got so... It's got really caught up in something else, hasn't it? Oh dear. Why has it got that? Not doing anything there. Definitely doesn't like it. It's even, you know, it started to cook my laptop. Something's going on. Well, that's just OBS being a pain. Great. So maybe you're all having a wonderful stream. Don't understand that. This doesn't make sense. These files should not be here because they were not there. Why are they in there when I move to that? It doesn't really make any sense. Well, anyway, okay, let's get that stash out. So this is the state of this file with that stash in place. And do I have a call function thing? No. What's call function? Where's it getting that? Did I just make that up? It's not a Tauri thing, is it? Call function. Oh, not there. Nope. Maybe it was just, yeah, I can't even really remember. Maybe it was me just being hypothetical. So where I'd written that was like, hopefully this is how it can work. So let's go back from that for a minute. Instead of trying to do all of this fancy stuff, I'm going to comment that out. We'll just get we'll do it bit by bit. We'll get the socket thing running and then, yeah, let's see what happens. So if we just go, I don't know why I've got two. What does the deserializer from the reader do? That should be, don't know. What does JSON deserializer from reader? That creates a deserializer from an IO read. Okay. I think I need it to be mutable. Let's just see if we can get the message out. Let's not try and do whatever that was trying to do. So this should just be a deserializer. Maybe. Wow, no, it doesn't like that. I don't have deserializer. Deserializer. We should move that down because it's also incorrectly ordered. So I'm not actually using those at the moment, which is also not helpful. I think part of that problem is my Rust has improved since the time that I originally wrote this stuff, which is a good thing, but yeah. We're not going to have a response, so we can't do that. What we can do is, let's say, debug the request. I don't think I need that. Trait objects must include the dim keyword. Okay. Maybe. I mean, it probably won't be that eventually either, but wow, gosh. Well, okay. I just want to have the message itself. You know, that would be really nice. It's still going to say it doesn't know what the length of that is though, right? But maybe it should be like this. And it's message dot. Oh man, I don't know. This is stuff that gets my head really screwed up. So I'm trying to take what I think is going to be a JSON string and just, I don't know, I'm trying to turn it into an object. Should be easy, right? No, it's not. It's very complicated. So let's not do that. Let's do what do we need? Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like I'm reading messages from the stream. I just want to maybe we don't need to handle it at all at the moment. Maybe that's the fundamentals of it. let's just ignore it. Let's just set up the stream and figure this bit out in a bit. I think with all of that cut out, it probably is sufficient. So the other side then is when we've got this making a request, I need it to return that response thing that we set up before. What did we say it was? Yeah, it was a HTTP client response, and that's not really quite correct. We want it to be I don't know what value that is actually of having it be that type. Honestly, that's quite strict, isn't it? Maybe it shouldn't be that strict at all. I mean, I think it does need a return type. We should decide on something that's useful, but I don't think it should be that specific one. I think we need to set up our own expectation. I don't know if that's going to cause this problems, but we'll cross that bridge later. Basically what this means is I need to set up a Tauri application, which I've got, and an Electron application against the same code base, and make sure that they both continue to work. So I need to do a bit more thinking about how I can set that up. Of course, if I had a good testing rig, that would be also helpful, but that's another matter. We'll come to that. So let's get rid of that. You can ignore all of that. I want to just run this thing. In theory, what's it called? Oh no, it's not there. I can't run that one. It's PHP Awesome-NativePHP. Right. That's what I'm going to run, but I need to make sure that my PHP code actually does do something. This is going to error anyway because I haven't got my delete. I need my delete. That. Oh, and it's not called environment. I forgot about that. It's called client. So that's not going to work. Okay, well, let's just see. We're going to get some errors. I can't account for everything. Oof. That's not pretty. Oh, this is because I've switched that to the other funky branch, isn't it? So I don't think I actually need this now, really, because there's not... Well, no, there's something in here. There's something about how some of it was working. What was it? The spawn. Yeah, so spawn, not those ones, that one is this async one. Which I was using, wow, that's interesting. I was using it for booting up PHP, and I was also using it for the TCP stream, it seems. That's where I was sort of going. And that allows me to do an async one, which is sort of weird. I wonder though, I don't think in the context that I'm in the plugin, that's going to allow me to do that well. I kind of feel like that should be, I'll keep it out as a note just so that we can reference it later. Yeah, what one was it? Just grab all of that for a second. I'll put it at the top here. Oh no, I should put it closer to the, I won't put it at the top. I'll put it where we actually do the spawn. What was that other one? Oh, standard, yeah. But I don't know the difference really between that spawn method and the standard one, but there's obviously something important in the way that one was working that potentially could still be a problem for us here. Anyway, that means I can discard all of those changes. We can forget about that because I've got all of that code now, and we can move back to our standard branch. And that means it should work again. Ooh. That's interesting. I stashed that away. That one's needed. Interesting. Let's maybe those two are needed. In fact, I don't know. Let's do need work. Fine. That's fine. Get those in there. You can stash this again. I don't know why I had that backup, but I do. I'll keep it around till it becomes useful again. And I think I'm going to call it a day because it's, yeah, warning, that's not an error. It's still going to build, blah, blah, blah. Unused, that's fine, yeah. Okay, but we're not doing anything here that's actually going to run that code, so that's the bit that we need. So I'm going to do it straight in component and nasty component. Yeah, we can do get badge count, that's fine. So livewire counter, get badge count, and then that's going to call our app facade, which is going to call our app class, which is going to load our client, which is then going to try and hit one of these endpoints, which we've got to sort out, but in theory we shouldn't have to do anything else to this code. That's it. We can map all of that stuff, which would be quite nice. So I'm going to have to restart this because it's got to take that fresh code. Hopefully I've got that right. Counter. Yeah, I don't know where that 0 goes in the value of the button. And that is the 0 button then, so it's this one. So in theory, that should have done something. But it's not doing anything. That's interesting. Why is that not doing a thing? I don't know. That should be. Oh. One sec. No, she doesn't want to talk to me. It should be by, oh, here, what's this? Unhandled promise rejection. This is the problem. Why is that failing? Is that failing from the get-go? No, only when I hit that. Which means there's something in this response that's wrong. Ah ha 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 ha. Right. Why is that trying to go to HTTP localhost 4000? It's the wrong client. It's not using the right client. It's using the Electron client. Pending request. That's all wrong. Why has it not obeyed what we've asked it to do? I don't know. Native client. That doesn't really make any sense. Maybe it's not using this package. Maybe that's what's happening. Let's have a look. It's using. Yes, that's the problem. So it's not using the dynamic one that I'm working with because I haven't told it to. That's just my fault. And that's because I probably can't make it do that through the package. I have to do it here, which means I need to require it directly. This is where like all of this package development becomes really complicated. Native PHP, Laravel, and I need to include it directly here at the moment. And I don't, oops, excuse me, I don't know why I've got the hiccups all of a sudden. There's a dev Tauri. What? Oh, okay, thank you. Thanks for fixing my styling. Let's I'm not going to do that one yet. We said we weren't going to do that one. And this one is weird. Why is that not being done by a facade? I don't know. I'm not going to do this one either. We'll do those bit by bit later. This is going to hurt that one. I'm just going to discard that. I'll remember it because it's a match. We'll figure that out at some point. No, come on. Simplify the interface. Oh, that's a pain, isn't it? Stop doing that. Let's do that. You can't possibly have. Well, I want my version. Oh no, it's that one. Fine. Okay. So then I need to run here, composer update, so that it pulls in the dynamic local copy rather than, oh wow, there's loads. So yeah. Yeesh. That's interesting. I don't even know where that's come from. Well, it's something to do with the local version. So I don't have a fix. But that was from this. It's ahead of main, so that must be an issue. Minify application command. I didn't. Do that. Where is that? This is because, this is probably trying to do this on PHP 8.3 or something. Delete. Oh. void must not return a value. Why is it void? This is just incorrect. Let's try again. I mean, it's weird because it's returning, well, that's just going to be true or something, true or false. It's a bool, but it doesn't always return a bool. Here it doesn't. Don't know. It's definitely not void. So that's a mistake. This can't be released. No, it's not. Okay, so that's just in a bit of a weird state. That's not fun. And then let's try again. See if it now uses the dynamic one. It should do. Still failed though. Something else. Let's see what it is. And then it doesn't work because the JavaScript failed. I've got to fix that because that's not nice. If it doesn't, why is it not sending back? So that's because we're not sending useful headers through to the command yet. So the header that Livewire is sending is application JSON. It's expecting JSON to come back, and then it could render a better error message and just handle this. But because we're not passing that through to the PHP command yet, it doesn't return JSON, it's returning HTML. Which is why this is problematic then, because it's expecting JSON and it's failing miserably. Fine, but that's still using the wrong client. We did set the environment correctly here, didn't we? Yep. So why is that not using the right thing? So no, I can't do that. That needs to happen somewhere else. That's a different problem. Why is it not using the Tauri driver? See if I can get this to come out somewhere. Don't think that's going to work. Cannot overwrite directory with none directory. That's one problem. So I actually So that, I think that's actually the problem. Right, we can forget that. It's not running that code at all because it's not been able to overwrite that directory. Because in here it does not like what I've done, swapping that out for something else. So this is not going to be the same code. Yeah, it's missing that. So I need to delete this. Bye-bye. And rerun this. Maybe this time. That's interesting that I spotted that. That's not very apparent. Ooh. That's not good. That does not look healthy. Right. That's because it's a symlink. That's a pain. And it's being treated differently because I don't have some special case. That's no good. So in the command that copies everything, which is in, oh no, it's in there, it's in this thing. We're explicitly handling the Tauri folder a certain way. It's not the most obvious, but it's doing that because if we didn't, it would do it recursively over and over and over, and it would just be a mess because it's in itself. We're copying it into itself, and that's problematic. And that's just the nature of this beast. But what that means is now that I've used a symlink for that other one, that's not working because it's just copying a symlink. It's not following the symlink, and I can't remember how we do that. CP with symlink. It should be L. We've got that. I can't use it like preserve links. Follows the link to find the file to copy instead of copying the links themselves. Okay, so maybe it should be not that one. Oh, there's a space there. Preserve links. illegal. That's no good. Let's not even bother trying with that. That's nonsense. Can I not use preserve links? Well, let's just do AB. No, that hasn't done it either. That's not good. Goodbye. This is nonsense. Oh, cool. Right, let's do it the old-fashioned way. Instead of symlink, how do I do it? Oh, I can't remember the syntax. Composer repositories. Link, 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 link. Options symlink false. Let's do it that way. Oh, that's going to be a problem as well, isn't it? Because that's wrong. Thanks for warning me about that, Composer. I appreciate that. And then now this shouldn't be a link. It should be a copy. Oh, I don't know. That doesn't make sense. Where is that? Let's have a look in here. Vendor. Laravel. Is still a link. Let's get rid of it. Oh, and the Electron client's also wrong. Oops. Because I didn't fix that up. Let's sort those things out now. Fix namespaces. Okay, and then in here, this shouldn't be a symlink anymore. Oh, it's not even there. Oh yeah, it's not a symlink anymore, it's copied, which means when we copy it again, let's do it one more time. Make sure it gets the right version. Fine, everything, no errors. And then when we do this, it should copy correctly because it's, which is a bit of a pain because that doesn't solve the problem that I was having. It just means I have to do a composer update now every time I change something. Oh man, it's a nightmare trying to do all of this stuff. It's very, very complicated and you have to have your head screwed on. Right, turn this on by default so I get this come up. Network, PAL, right, well it crashed. Couldn't split headers from content. That's not helpful. What's in the terminal at that point? Nothing. It actually just didn't. So it crashed in a way that couldn't send anything useful back to Rust. And that's where I need my error reporting when that happens. I need to handle this better, basically. I can't have it do that all of the time when it is not able to do something useful. I need it to be more productive than that. It's a shame. Okay, well, we've gone, what's it been now? Over 2.5 hours. So we're not going to get this to work, unfortunately, because I need to stop. I need to go and eat something. But yeah, let's go back. Let's just recap really quickly. So we've tried to set up a kind of a socket server in Rust, which seems to be operating because the code that we've added, that we've spawned a thread, it should be listening. It's doing something. We haven't confirmed all of that. I mean, we could have done some stuff to confirm. In fact, once I think about it, if I do that, I can probably run the process. I'm just going to do this really quickly because I think it's a good thing to check. And what's the ls of or something like that, isn't it? I want to see if there's something running on port 9000, basically, which there should be. ls of itcp 9000. There is. So actually, let me just quickly show you that because I think it's useful. So I've just run this. Whoop, let's do it again so you can see. And it's showing that there's this command called NativePHP that's listening, and that's my app. That's this. So it's listening on port 9000. So it's ready to receive something, and it hasn't hindered the boot up process really at all. There's no special, there's nothing crazy going on. It's very, very quick to open a TCP socket like that, which is nice. The problem is something in the PHP side. I'm going to get stuck on with the screen and the mouse, and that's not what I said. The problem is when we're trying to send a message to that socket from PHP, which we may or may not be doing successfully, there's some error that's occurring on the PHP side, and it's meaning that because that's happening in a live wire request at the moment, like I press the button, the request goes to the server, and the response comes back. The request goes to the server. Ugh, we're not in the servers. The request goes through the PHP command, the executable that we've got, and the response is whatever that command's output is. So the command has output something which Rust cannot interpret, and that just means that Rust is having trouble with it, and I need to improve the way that Rust handles that case. That would be better. What I can do in the short term is I can output everything that comes back from the commands, and then we can see, I'll be able to see it and I can debug it. But I actually do want a better way to handle that going forwards. I think it makes sense to have something in the Rust code that's going to handle that gracefully and print out errors to the terminal and that kind of thing. It's because that's going to be a good developer experience. I'm just doing it whilst I'm talking because I want to see, and it's still trying to look at port 4000, so there's something still really wrong. It's just not it's not using that bit of code that I've set up. So I don't know why, but we'll get to the bottom of that and get it moving forward. But it's a good start. This is the other side. Basically, we're on this territory of, we've got Rust talking to PHP in a really nice way. Now we need PHP to talk to Rust in a really nice way. And this is the start of that. And I think, yeah, maybe this is the right way to do it for now. I think there could be other approaches. Like I've talked to Austin Cameron, who has had a go at some of this before, and he was kind of talking about using FFI. That could be interesting. And as I said earlier, I'm talking with the Tauri team. One of them has already suggested FFI as well, which is kind of okay. The problem with FFI, as my understanding is, of PHP, it's quite slow. So that might be an issue. The other problem is the static executable that we've got doesn't support FFI on all platforms. And I think that's going to be a hard limit. So we can support TCP sockets. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think FFI might be an issue. So let's see. Whichever way around, there's got to be some exposing of the functionality, the kind of core platform functionality of like opening windows and whatever within the Rust code. So once whichever mechanism we use to communicate across those process boundaries, that IPC that we're doing, whatever way we approach that, the fundamental part of it should be the same, that we've got some logic in place in Rust code that needs to execute in order to do the things that we want it to do. So I think we can move forward regardless of the specific communication mechanism that's used, and then if we need to later on, or we can, or like some advantage to changing it, we can change it. So that's that. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go and get something to eat, and I'm going to let you go and have a nice weekend. But if you were here for a bit, if you only just came, or if you were here for the whole lot, thank you. Yeah, have a lovely evening, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.